Next up tonight on the hour, Muhammad Ali, Michael J. Fox both suffer from it, but it remains a very misunderstood condition. Later this year, sufferers from around the world will gather right here in Scotland for a special convention. So tonight, we're turning the spotlight on Parkinson's disease with Dr. Debbie and Bryn Williams, who was diagnosed with the condition aged just 36. Thank you both very much for coming in. Debbie, what is Parkinson's disease?
Well, it's a condition that affects about 1 in 500 of the population, and it typically affects people as they get older, but as Bryn's case proves, it can occur in younger people too. It's a progressive condition that is caused by degeneration in a very specific part of the brain that's called the basal ganglia, and that bit of the brain is very important for controlling and coordinating movement. We don't really understand what causes Parkinson's disease. There's lots of theories out there. In some cases it runs in families, so there's probably a genetic element. We know that boxers and other people who have traumatic brain injuries are at a higher risk of Parkinson's disease. And there's also a theory that some sort of environmental toxin may be responsible, such as pesticides and things, because people who live in rural situations are slightly higher risk of Parkinson's disease than people who live in the cities. But for most people, on an individual basis, we don't really understand what causes it. Symptoms-wise, people tend to present with slowing of their movement, rigidity of the muscles and a tremor, and it's often the tremor that brings the condition to medical attention. Other things like depression can also be increased in Parkinson's disease also.
Well, Bryn, we've mentioned before you were only 36 when you were told you had Parkinson's. Take us back to that day when you were diagnosed. What did, how did you react?
It was horrendous, because I didn't know what Parkinson's was. I thought it was a disease of the elderly, and I was, as you said, I was 36, and just the whole world caved in. Was I going to die? I didn't know if it was terminal. I didn't know how it was going to progress. All the plans for the future were just thrown up in the air.
Because you've got young children as well, haven't you? Yeah. Are they aware of your condition?
Yeah, Elle and Rebecca are both, they talk about my wobbly arm. I don't think they've got the full implication of what could happen. But, they're very supportive and they have a good laugh about it.
Well, tell us how it affects your life. I mean, I can see sitting talking to you here, your right arm is moving. Tell us how it affects you at the moment and stops you doing things. It's mostly in my right-hand side. It's in my right arm especially. There's tremor and there's stiffness, so my fine movement's not very good, so writing's difficult. Using a computer's difficult. I've got a desk-based job, so it's that impacts on it. I do a lot of running, and it started to spread into my right leg, so running is becoming more difficult. And your body just slowly shuts down.
Now, running, was this something that were you passionate about before your diagnosis, or is this something you've taken up as a result of your diagnosis? I
was the stereotypical couch potato when I was
really?
diagnosed. Absolutely. There is some evidence that that running exercise, vigorous exercise, can help with Parkinson's. Nothing slows it down, nothing can cure it, but people that exercise fare better. So, when you're faced with that sort of situation, you run, and you run as much as you can.
How about positive mental attitude? Because I've read you've said in the past that you chose not to succumb to Parkinson's disease. What part does psychology play in the fight that you're having at the moment? As Dr. Debbie said, depression is one of the key factors of symptoms of Parkinson's disease, and with a positive attitude, you can keep hope, you can keep positive, you can keep moving forward. I think with diseases like Parkinson's, it's very important to take control of the condition yourself, face up to it and what it can do to you, and do your best to live long and happy for your kids' sake more than anything else.
Well, Debbie, as Bryn said, positive mental attitude is so important, but talk to us about the options in terms of medication that's available.
Yeah, most of the treatments for Parkinson's disease are aimed at increasing a chemical in the brain called dopamine, because that's the chemical that's lacking. So we replace that in the way of tablets, or there's some injectable therapies as well. Physiotherapy and exercise also helps, as Bryn mentioned, and there's some more new novel techniques. There's a thing called deep brain stimulation, where an electrode is placed in a specific bit of the brain and attached to something that the patient can control to turn on and off. And the area in the brain that is the area where tremors and things develop, so it overrides those signals in the brain that cause tremor and stiffness. So that's a new novel therapy, but Parkinson's is also one of the few areas where things like stem cell therapy and gene therapy look particularly promising, so I think there's a lot of hope for the future.
And those developments will no doubt be on the agenda at the World Parkinson Congress, which is in Scotland, starts September 28th, and you're looking for people who are affected to come along and take part in that.
Absolutely, it's not just for scientists and researchers, it's for people with Parkinson's. There's a serious side, we'll talk about the research, and there's going to be a fun side to having a wobbly banquet. in the city, and it's going to be a great gathering, but we need people from Scotland with Parkinson's to be there.
Okay. Forward. Okay, well, thank you both for being here, Bryn, and hopefully people will come forward. Thank you, Dr. Debbie. All the details, of course, what we've spoke about today are on our website, stv.tv/Sarah. Thank you to you both.